Josh. Property is foundation right up to the easement. Yep. Makes a big difference.
Good evening. Welcome. At this time, I'm going to call Chris Newkirk up, and he's going to give our invocation.
Thank you, Chairman Waters. Let us pray. Lord, we just thank you for today. We thank you for the many blessings that you give us, and Lord, for the opportunities that you give us each and every day to serve our community. And Lord, as we go through tonight's business, I ask that you just humble our hearts. Lord, that you open our hearts to hear your word. Lord, allow us to make decisions that are pleasing to you. Lord, to make actions that further your will in our community. Lord, and I ask that you touch all those in our community who are lost or struggling or hurting with so many different things, Lord. You know their hearts and you hear their prayers, Lord, and just remind them of the fact that you are a caring and loving God and a God who through all things are possible. And Lord, I just ask that. I ask that you lay a healing hand on everyone. Lord, have your presence fill this room now. Allow us to make decisions that are pleasing to you and allow our actions to give glory and honor to you in all ways. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chris. At this time, I'll call the September Board of Commissioners meeting to order. This time, I ask that you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Booth will lead us in the pledge.
Raise the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'll ask that you please silence your cell phone, or at least put it on vibrate. We're down to item number C, conflict of interest disclosure statement. Does any commissioner have a conflict that they need to disclose? Hearing none or seeing none, we'll move to item number D, the approval of the agenda. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have my second. All those in favor of the agenda, please raise your right hand. Thank you. We're down to items for presentation. Dolores.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. We have a number of employees I'd like to recognize tonight for their service to Beaufort County. I'll start with those employees that are actually here tonight. Ms. Susan Waters with our Department of Social Services. If you would come up and get your award. Susan has 5 years of service. Next, we have Jason Hancock with 10 years of service with the Sheriff's Office. Next, we have Ms. Gail Griffin with 5 years of service with the Sheriff's Office.
I voted for you, later on.
And then we have Miss Lori Girani with 15 years of service with the Sheriff's Office in the jail. We also have some employees that could not be here tonight. Ms. Christy McLawhorn has 5 years of service now with the Tax Assessor's Office. Latasha Crawford Norman has 5 years of service with our Health Department. And William Mayo has 10 years of service with our water department. So congratulations to those employees as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dolores. We did not have anyone sign up for public comments, and I do not see any of our legislators here. I'm assuming they're back in Raleigh for session.
They need to be.
Okay, we're down to items for consent. Is there any item that you would like to pull? Entertain a motion to approve the items.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the items for consent, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. At this time, we have a public hearing on a decision for a road name. Joshua? Need a motion to go into...
Mr. Chairman, before we go into that public hearing, I read the newspaper advertisement, and it was advertised for a meeting on Monday night, not Tuesday night. I'm not sure we can do this tonight.
It was reposted. We were able to catch it last second, thanks to
But
Katie.
the last issue of the paper didn't reflect that
The last issue,
that I saw.
we had it reposted for that Sunday, or not Sunday, the Saturday posting and the following Saturday posting, which was still over the 10 days, but less than 25 days for the first posting. So we did make it in there. The initial posting was just the typo since it was the normal day that we would typically meet. But we were able to make it in there with the Saturday first posting.
Okay, I need a motion to go into the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor of the public hearing, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Okay, Josh.
All right. We just had one petition to name a private road. It was submitted by an Eric Stevens. The petition was submitted due to a pending application for an address, and the parcel that is currently being served by the unnamed road is the parcel that needs the address. The county's road naming and addressing ordinance requires that the road be named in order for the address to be given. And the notice of public hearing was sufficiently advertised. Like we just mentioned, it was originally posted for the Monday being the date of the meeting, but was caught and we reran the advertisement and made it in on that Saturday, still 10 days prior to this meeting date, not including the date of publication. The notice was also posted within the courthouse, 2 separate locations, and the applicant was required to submit 3 proposed road names. Those submitted, it was Not a Road, Sail Away, and Overdrive. Staff determined that the applicant's first proposed name, Not a Road, does not duplicate any existing road names within Beaufort County, and there's no sound-alikes. And we recommended the approval of that road name. The application attached, I will note, we were waiting on the separate copy. There's 3 signatures on the copy y'all have. We needed 2 more, which we did receive. We were waiting on that within the last week, which we were told we would get. So we did receive the signatures that were required. So I just wanted to add that. But again, staff did recommend the approval of the proposed first choice of Not a Road.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Well, it's a public meeting, but I want to speak in the public meeting. Not a road is confusing. It's going to be confusing to the sheriff's office. It's going to be confusing to everybody. You start telling me, where is this Not a Road? Where is that? Let's pick something realistic.
Yeah, it reminds me of Who's on First.
Yeah.
Would y'all be willing to approve the second choice of Sail Away?
What was it?
The first choice was Not a Road.
And was it the people that live on, excuse me? Was that the people that live on the road that made this choice?
Yes.
Well,
The property owners and it was 3 surrounding property owners and then the 2 property owners that own the actual parcel that the easement was on, or who signed off on the petition.
Well, if our sheriff can find Rattlesnake Road, he can darn sure find Cola Road.
Well, you pronounced it not a road. I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but.
I did ask the applicant, just to make sure that's how it was supposed to be pronounced. I didn't know if that was I figured it was a play on words with it sounding like not a road, considering the other two were sail away and overdrive. But, yeah, that was the pronunciation, and I guess other people might pronounce it differently if they're not familiar with it, but.
Well, all three of these names came from the person with the petition, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what Commissioner Richardson is saying, because of not a road, when he goes into the 911 center, I'm sure it would require some additional conversation.
It's fixing it.
Pardon?
We had another error in that notice.
Okay.
It says Monday the 5th.
The second publication.
Yes,
Yeah, the one that's in our book does say that.
yeah, so I pulled up the electronic version of the latest Washington Daily News, and it reads, public notice shall be on Monday, September the 5th. Now, today is September the 5th, but today is not Monday. So the county attorney has an opinion on that.
I think we ought to do it again, get it right.
I agree.
Okay, we need a motion to come out, and then we'll take action. Well, we don't have to take action, okay.
Well, unless you don't want not a road.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor of coming out of the public hearing, raise your right hand. Okay. So we're going to re-advertise it?
And would y'all prefer that new name suggestions be made? And just since there was some confusion with those.
I don't have a problem with the other two names, but I'm not going to name a road something that I know is going to confuse me.
So
If it
sail away
confuses
was
me,
both
it's going to
of-
confuse everybody.
Okay.
You sit there and try to explain, well, let's see, this is not a road. Well, where is that? I mean, come on, people.
Would you do us a favor and contact the person and tell them our concerns with that
Put
name?
another name up if he wants to.
Don't tell them our concerns, you tell them their concerns.
Tell them what Richardson said.
Don't tell them mine.
How about that?
We can keep the same application if the other two name suggestions would be applicable for one of the choices. If they wanted to come up with new name suggestions, they would have to apply again. If the other two, you did say that there wasn't, y'all didn't have issues with the other two, it's just the first one. Okay. Right.
It's okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, our goal in doing that is to make sure for public safety purposes that they don't sound alike, that they're not confusing, those kind of things. So from a county's perspective, our goal is to try to make it as clear as it can be for public safety purposes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Items for discussion, cooperative extension, Rod?
Good evening. I'll, two matters for you this evening to consider. The first one there on the agenda is the shared small farm status, or the status of that position. You guys may remember back in 2021, going into that budget year, you provided funding for a shared small farm agent position. That position was going to be shared between Martin County and Beaufort County, and it was funded through North Carolina A&T State University. So you understand extension is NCA&T State University and North Carolina State University. This position was going to be funded by NCA&T, and for 3 years now, we're going into our, well, I say 3 years, we're going into our third budget year with this money in place and no movement at NCA&T. Their HR department is in shambles, I think, but it's just been held up. Long story short, we took the opportunity to investigate other ways to make this happen and found a solution, which I think we budgeted $12,000 or roughly that amount in the budget for this position. We have a workaround through NC State University now with an agent already in place in Pitt County that is going to expand his territory and become an area specialized agent, is what we call them. So this person will work in Pitt, Martin, and Beaufort County. It will cost us, instead of $12,000, I think around $5,900 and some change, just under $6,000 to fund the position. So it saves us some money in the budget. And speaking with the county manager about that, he felt like we needed to come and kind of give you guys an update on that and ask if there's any questions about it. This person is still going to cover the same subject matter. It's just really funded through a different university and at a lower cost. This person will not be based in the county. They'll work out of Pitt County, but he'll be on call. He'll come visit farms. He'll come look at pastures and livestock, handle livestock questions for us. And that was our goal the whole time, to have that support, which we don't currently have. Any questions about that?
Any questions? Yes. Mr. Booth.
Ron, if memory serves me well, it was going to be over here 3 days and Martin County 2 days. You didn't cover that part.
That is exactly right. It was a 50%, so A&T would pay 50% of the salary of that position, then Martin County would pay 30% and Beaufort paid 20%.
Okay.
And yes, they were going to break it out where that person would actually physically come to the office 2 days a week.
Now they come as needed.
This is an as needed, as called, which is, honestly, that's how this was going to be. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to ask somebody to come over here and sit in office for no reason. I'd rather them be out in the field addressing concerns. I'd rather have them there doing that anyway, and so it's not going to hurt us in any way. In fact, I think, honestly, we're probably getting more experience in this, in the way we're handling it now as opposed to before.
So we cut the price in half and got no days?
Yeah.
Just as needed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. No actions required on that.
I'd feel more comfortable if the board would give us the authorization to move forward with that and execute that agreement.
Okay.
Because we have talked about it in the past, it has been out there, and you were under a different impression of how it would be handled.
And so there'll be a new agreement between the,
Now, that's the second thing we're talking. This is basically, we were going to bring an agent in to help with.
so there's no agreement other than just,
It's a budgetary
Okay.
change, really, I guess.
all right, I'll entertain a motion to
Let me
approve.
say one thing, though. I know what you're probably thinking. I've worked hard to try to get this funded and to get A&T to do it, and we can't wait forever. And with no action, I just found another way.
I understand.
Yeah.
But I also understand I wanted the whole story.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I knew,
It will be the same level of service.
Yeah.
It's just, we're not going to require that person to actually come sit in
but
this
I knew
office.
somewhere back in my mind, I heard about 3 days.
You're right. That was the original intent. Yeah.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Add a second? Add a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen. You want to go to the updated memorandum of agreement
Yes, so-
with NC State?
So this document has been in place for years with each county. Most likely, none of you probably have ever seen it or heard about it. It's kind of I guess for lack of a better term, it might be a background document. It is an agreement between the county and the university, NC State University, that maps out how extension is funded by the university and what share of that funding is handled by the county. And you all have heard me talk about our percentages of our salaries, how they're broken out with the county. And so the university decided that since it had been a while since they looked at this agreement, they wanted to go back through and rewrite it and update it with modern terminology. And that is really and truly the difference that you would see, and that if you compared it to the old document, it's just cleaning up some old terminology and things of that nature. The agreement is the same as what it was before. There is one difference in the document that you have before you, not the addendum, but the main document. It defaults to a lock-in. Now, we have always been, in my time as Extension Director, and I think even before, since this option was given with the last MOA, we are a send-in county. So you guys send your money to the university, and they pay us with one check, but you also have the autonomy to give increases or to reject increases because you're a send-in county. So you're not mandated by the university to match whatever they do. This document you have in front of you actually defaults to a lock-in, which means when you sign it, you would obligate to pay whatever increase in salary the state might mandate, a COLA or whatever. You don't want that. We don't want it. As an extension director, I think we've been treated much more fairly by the county in terms of raises. I mean, the county raises are almost always better than the state raises. And the fact that you let us participate in longevity in this past budget is also a key factor. We don't want to give that up. You don't want to lose the autonomy you have. So the addendum you have that I handed out here this afternoon, it will be an additional document that will be signed if passed by the chairman that will opt out of the lock-in provision. So it will be just like it always has been, which is what we want. I know I threw a lot of crazy talk at you, but are there any questions about that?
Questions of Rod?
Did I miss anything?
County attorneys reviewed it.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
We had the Director of Cooperative Extension Service speak to us at our state association.
Right.
And he brought this up.
Yeah, so you've heard about, and that's
Yeah.
good. Each county is tasked with trying to get this updated, and I just decided to go ahead and get that done. I regret that I was not able to be at the meeting with y'all.
We understand you had a good reason not to be there. Okay. All right, I entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement with NC State
And the addendum.
and the addendum.
I'll make that motion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Walker. Is there a second? I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the agreement, please raise your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, Rod.
Thank you. I forgot to ask you this when we were talking on this first item. Who calls the person as needed?
So the way that will work, and historically has worked, we'll get a call in our office regarding a pasture question or a livestock question, something that's a little out of my expertise or Gene's expertise or someone else. We will probably either email, it depends on how he wants to set it up. We'll either email this other fella and let him know about the need with a telephone number to follow up. We might give his cell phone number if he's open to that, give that to the client and have them call directly, which is usually the best way to do it because we're not passing information through three parties. They can directly contact, but it will be seamless and he's very knowledgeable and I think we're going to step our game up in terms of how we are handling the livestock questions and pasture questions we get at the county. That makes sense to you. You can call me later.
I will.
Yeah, with a livestock question. Thank you, guys.
All right. Next item is from the Sheriff's Office. Captain Gerard,
Good evening, Chairman.
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Hope you are. I'm here tonight to seek approval for a purchase order for 9 new chargers through the state contract.
So move. Excuse me. So move. I think I still do it.
Okay.
Question, but I asked the move change.
All right. You want to put your mic on?
Make a motion that you approve the 9 chargers.
Second.
And we have a second. Now discussion. Now your question.
Just for the record, that is in the budget, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
What is the additional upfitting cost? Are you going to use existing electronics and signal equipment, or are you going to have new?
It'll be a mixture of both. We're going to a rifle mount system that takes a different cage, so I won't better reuse cages. And we're also going with a light bar on top, which will have to be purchased.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor of the purchase of the 9 Dodge Chargers that's in the 23-24 budget, please raise your right hand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Captain Gerard,
Sir.
I want to thank you for presenting the information the way you presented it,
Yes, sir.
because even I could understand it and justify your purchase.
Yes,
So,
sir.
thank you.
Okay. Next item is the Stryker cardiac monitor lease. And it looks like we're going to have a demonstration.
But I hope we do not have to demonstrate it.
When I saw you come in the back door, I thought it was one of the old boom boxes that people used to have.
That's what I did.
Really?
It'd been cooler if it was, but no, it's not. So we're here before you tonight to discuss the future of our cardiac monitors, particularly the ones we have now. So many of you recall in 2019, we had included in that fiscal year monies to enter into an agreement to get us our current monitors, which is what you see here. And that was a 4-year lease. That lease is set to expire this month, and that really leaves us with 3 options. So one, we can trigger a rental agreement, which would allow us to continue to rent these monitors at a cost of about $4,400 a month. So just over $53,000 for a year. We could enter into a new contract to get, or a new lease agreement to get new monitors. And a couple of issues there is one, the current monitors that they are developing are still in the testing phases by FDA, so they have not completed all of the FDA required tests. And so we don't know how long that will take, and what Stryker is telling us is if we sign a lease agreement today to get new monitors, it could be 10 to 14 months before we take possession of them. So either way, we're still going to be using these monitors. The third option would be to implement the buyback option of our lease, which means we can buy the monitors that we currently have at a price of just over $31,000. These monitors have been cared for through a service plan with Stryker over the last 4 years, so we know their condition. It's monitors that we are used to using and accustomed to having on our trucks, and we would recommend entering into the purchase of these current monitors. That allows us time to evaluate other competitors for the monitors and potentially see what is to come on those delivery dates in the FDA process. So that's what we have before you with our recommendation. Be happy to take any questions you might have.
Commissioner Richards.
Would you still be able to buy a maintenance plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay, how much is that costing?
They're under a current ProCare right now until 7/26 of next year, and then they will prorate. We will negotiate for a annual service plan from there.
What is your service plan costing you now?
Right now, it's not costing us anything. We made our last payment on that, but it's extended.
Well, what was it costing you when you were paying?
It was in the lease agreement, tied in with it was
So it was
about
part of the lease.
about $44,000.
Is that the cost of the maintenance?
Maintenance, any replacement, any problem.
Per year?
Yes, sir.
So the service plan was included in our current lease for these monitors for a total price over that period of about $44,000.
For the year?
Now, the thing was, Stryker messed up, and they put the wrong termination date on our service plan, so we're getting an extra year out of them, which is why our service plan is not expiring with the lease. So per year, we're looking at about $10,000 or $11,000 to service all of our monitors for that year, and that's pretty much all inclusive. That does all our service testing and any parts and components, and Jeff can attest, we had a monitor go down a few months ago. They actually had to replace the circuit boards inside, which were about the cost of a new monitor. So it has paid for itself to have that plan in place. And to answer your question, we can, if we choose to keep this, if for some reason we have to keep these monitors beyond next September when our current service plan ends, there are options through Stryker that we can continue our service plan for relatively about the same price. The only problem we'll run into is eventually they're going to stop making parts for this. So the things that they can fix in a timely manner is going to dwindle off.
Everybody good?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Langley.
How many units do you have?
We have 6 for our county-operated EMS units right now.
Okay, so the city is separate.
The city is separate.
And each unit, the cost is exactly?
Yeah, Stryker doesn't negotiate much with buying power. They will, if you're buying a large volume, they do come off some of the price a little bit, but as far as from what we've seen, the 6 we buy at that price is the same that Chocowinity going to buy 2 for, or Washington's going to buy 1 for.
And that price is what you said, $31,000?
The current price for a life pack is,
31.3, no, I'm sorry.
the 31 is to purchase our
Yeah.
used monitors. The current price for just the LifePak unit new is $35,129, and then you have to buy all the additional cables, so fitted like you see, about $42,000 per unit.
So with what you're recommending, it's a great savings.
It is a cost savings to keep us in a monitor and not have to navigate all the delivery date issues of transitioning to something new. And it gives us time to evaluate either competitor monitors or possibly look at some type of negotiation on purchasing newer devices from LifePak in the future.
Do we have a motion? I'm sorry. John?
What is the current lease, monthly lease, or is it yearly lease for that?
It's an annual, we pay annually
Right.
over a 4-year period. So for example, our current lease from the time we implemented it to now has totaled,
Chris, it should be the $53,030 a year. That's for 6 monitors, so it's about $8,800 a year per monitor is what I'm coming up with.
Okay.
to lease the monitors. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else entertain a motion to approve the item, or number 3, recommendation number 3?
I'll make that motion.
And a second. And a second. Any further discussion?
Just got one.
Yes.
We want to make sure that this insurance, this warranty, this package stay in place.
Yes.
As long as that, it's a good savings, as long as we got that insurance.
And for that, again, our service plan will at least carry these monitors through into the next budget year. So we essentially will have between now and the next budget process to kind of regroup and evaluate what we want to do and still have the confidence of knowing our monitors are serviceable and going to stay in service.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of purchasing the 6 monitors for $31,383.30, raise your right hand. Thank you, and Jeff, for your research and recommendation. Okay, we're down to Public Works. Wes? And Christine.
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here tonight. The first item we've got for tonight is to award a contract for the solid waste site improvements that we've been working on, planning out. Just a little bit of history. We issued the first, well, I'll give some history before that. The RFP was put together for site improvements to the Cherry Run, Chocowinity, and River Road sites. A copy of the RFP was attached for you all to review. It includes demolition of some unsafe wooden structures at each site, expansion of some concrete block retaining walls, addition of some concrete and asphalt surfaces around the sites, installation of handrails, lighting and electrical improvements, general cleanup, and pothole patching. We also requested some bid alternates from the contractors for what it would take to do some additional paving at the sites, just to get some pricing to work with. We initially advertised on July 5th. It was posted on the Beaufort County website. The Department of Administration historically underutilized business solicitation opportunities website, and directly emailed to 4 local contractors that we felt would have interest in the project. We received 1 bid out of that process. In order to hopefully get some better pricing, we did decide to put this back out to bid on August the 3rd. The second request was available on those same routes as before, and we directly made direct contact with at least 12 different contractors in the mostly local Washington, Greenville area, some of those a little bit outside of that. Out of that, we gained 1 additional proposal. A bid tabulation sheet was attached out of that process, and B.E. Singleton submitted the low bid with a base bid value of $329,240, and combined with the alternates of $367,939.05. In order for us to do this project based on current funding, an appropriation from fund balance would be required. The existing capital project fund has $92,521 in it from the previous appropriation. And what we have done is we have gone into the RFP and looked at some potential scope reductions in order to get this priced more reasonably from what we advertised. The spreadsheet that's attached details that, and you can see what we've done is we've taken the total cost of the contract, including all the alternates. We've taken out the balance remaining in the site improvements capital account, and that leaves us remaining $275,418.05. From there, we've broken down some different options, reducing the scope in some different rounds. What don't we need here? What could we go? What would be the next cut we would make, and what would be the next cut after that? So the first option was obviously to delete the paving that we had requested alternates from. We then continued on down and deleted some tasks from each site, such as some grading that was planned for drainage purposes, some seeding in different areas, clearing some underbrush, reducing some slabs that we were building. And then the next round went down to reducing some of the slabs that the containers would actually sit on behind the mounds. That's more of an operations thing versus citizen facing. Would help for public, but doesn't really do anything for the citizen. So by going through those rounds, we've been able to come up with what would be a new contract price of $259,890. And to do that would require a transfer from fund balance of $167,369. So our recommendation would be to award the site improvements contract to B.E. Singleton in the amount of $259,890. There's a budget reallocation request attached as well, I believe, detailing all the movement of the funds.
So, Mr. Chairman, to be clear, if you look on page 138, that's the budget amendment. This is not a general fund balance transfer. This is a solid waste fund transfer appropriation.
Let me ask a question.
Yes, Commissioner
Okay,
Richards.
these three sites, we're going to have those, are they a part of the mega plan that we're going to still keep these things?
These are the three sites that we own, so they would still be a part of things in the future.
Great, thank you.
Whether what's offered at those sites still is kind of in limbo, but we would still own the property and would be used to some extent, I believe.
Thank you.
Anita, do you have the fund balance for solid waste?
Yeah, before the previous year ended, it was about $950,000, and preliminary numbers for addition of fund balance for last year's operations, another $140,000. So probably close to about $1.1 million.
Well, Commissioner Richardson had the same question I had. And I guess you feel comfortable, you and Christina, with deleting the items that you've deleted?
Yes, we would not recommend it if we didn't feel comfortable with that.
Okay.
And I believe if we went farther, this is my opinion on this, if we took this farther, we would have to reduce service offerings at these sites to accomplish what's being done safely.
But you're addressing the safety issue.
Yes.
The steel bars that are being put up, that's the biggest ticket item when I look at it.
It is.
Commissioner Rebholz, did you have a question?
So one of the
things I struggled with was we don't know what we're going to make these sites look like in 14 months, right?
Right.
So I'm wondering if there's not an advantage to wait.
I don't think there's an advantage to wait. I think that the three that they're talking about, which we currently own, we've got to make some improvements on, and they're still going to be used to some extent.
Right.
So if we don't go ahead and do some safety improvements on there, we open ourselves up to some liability. And we are still going to own those. We're probably still going to use those in some capacity. So we need to make them safe as soon as we can make them safe.
Well, two of these are our largest volumes, if I remember correctly.
Oh, top three.
Top three, okay. Yes. Commissioner
Where's have y'all, I know that Singleton won the contract for 300,000+. You reduced it down to 259,000. Have you met with them that they will still do this work for 259?
We have run all of these options by them, and they were okay with any of the options that we went forward with.
Okay. And there ain't no change orders?
We'll do our best.
Thank you.
Depends on what's under the rocks. Anyone else have a question? All right, need a motion to approve the recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of the contract to B.E. Singleton, the amount of $259,890 for the three sites being Cherry Run, Chakawanaty, and River Road. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
Just one additional note to that, I should have mentioned it before. The contract does provide for 100 calendar days after the notice to proceed, so I think we had said by the end of the year, so hopefully we'll meet that deadline that we had put forward.
Are you going to have to close these sites?
Yes. We will try to limit that as much as possible. And we will also probably be doing like we did for Yatesville, where the other sites will stay open 7 days, I imagine.
Do you have liquidating damages in these contracts?
We have not actually written up the contract yet.
Well, I think we need rain day credit and we need liquidating damages.
The request for bids did not include liquidated damages, so that was not included in the number. Typically,
Well, you can
include
sit there for
liquidated-
6 months while you wait for this to happen.
Oh, yes, sir, you could, but typically, if you include the liquidated damages, when we're looking at local contractors, then the numbers increase quickly because they cover themselves, especially something that's dealing with site work so heavily and weather delays. Well, I agree, you would give rain delays. But again, with smaller contracts, we do not include liquidated damages in this. It's a unit price contract, so it's a contractor. It involves heavy equipment, so if his equipment is sitting on our site, he's not making money somewhere else.
Well, all that sounds good, but I've been there when you were waiting on somebody who was out frying a fish somewhere else while you were sitting waiting. And I think if we do anything in the future, we need to have rain day credits and we need to have liquidating damages.
It depends on the contract. I typically make that decision based upon the scope of work and the contractors that will be bidding. Our roofing contracts, all of those have liquidated damages included in it.
Just remember, we'll be looking at you right here if it doesn't work.
On a monthly basis, I understand.
Well, what happened at Yatesville is the contractor started getting the calls when it was not open.
That's the benefit of having a local contractor.
Yes.
And just two things, referencing Yatesville, we did finish ahead of schedule. I don't remember the exact time frame, but we were a little bit ahead of what we thought we were going to be. And also regarding these three sites, they will not all three be closed at the same time.
Right.
It'll be one at a time. And hopefully they'll be able to, like, when the site's closed for a day, maybe they'll be able to go in there and do a little bit of work to the other sites and move things along.
Okay, you want to go to the solid waste ordinance?
Certainly. So following the August board meeting, we took comments that we received from you all and revised the solid waste ordinance that we presented. The final draft is was attached for consideration by the board, as well as a revised fee schedule. So as we mentioned before, according to SB 300, General Statute 153A, 123.b has been revised to read that notwithstanding General Statute 153A-45, no ordinance specifying a criminal penalty may be enacted at the meeting in which it is first introduced. Therefore, if no changes are made to the attached ordinance, we would plan to place this on the October agenda for approval, and as discussed last time, would become effective January 1st of '24. Also was mentioned the plan, communications plan. So we will be working with the communications director to develop a plan to distribute and communicate the changes to the public once everything's kind of finalized. If no changes are made tonight, that'll help us a lot moving forward with that. We plan to use website postings, social media postings. He can do videos, press releases, and we'll use some signage. And there may be other potential methods that he's aware of that would help us out as well. So our recommendation would be to plan to move forward with this language in the ordinance and the fee schedule documents and plan for final approval during the October meeting.
We need a motion.
Motion to approve. So this would be considered first reading.
Yeah. I have two questions before you do that.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Is there a penalty prescribed in the ordinance for not covering waste while being transported?
Yes, sir. We have a section in the ordinance, 52.105, transportation of solid waste. If you have that in front of you, that is on page 12 of the ordinance. It says vehicles or containers used for transportation of solid waste shall be secured by effective means to prevent the blowing or spilling of materials from out of the vehicle. Then in the penalties section, section 52.201, and this gets lengthy, 52.201A3A2 states that improper transportation, including uncovered trucks and unsecured loads, is a Tier 2 civil penalty, which results in the first offense of $100 and each subsequent offense after that $500.
Okay, thank you. I have a second question.
Okay.
Well, I guess that could be enforced by the sheriff. If a deputy was driving down the road and saw trash going all over the road, he could stop and issue a citation if he wanted to.
It's written in here where whoever is given the authority to do that can do that. I believe we've put the sheriff's office, solid waste division, I think the health department is listed as a potential organization that can do enforcement actions. All depends on what method you all approve for us to do this. You know, we talked about a solid waste enforcement officer, whoever is written in there to do this.
That's not out the window, but I mean, it's going to be hard for a solid waste enforcement officer to see all of this going on. So have you spoken with the sheriff about this?
We have, I can't remember, we had some preliminary conversations.
No, sir, we have not discussed the solid waste.
Okay, we want to make sure before this thing receives its final adoption that everybody's on board about how this is going to be enforced, because I don't think there's anybody any better than the sheriff's department. They're all over the place as far as trash blowing across the highway. I mean, I have personally stopped people and told them, you need to go back and clean it up. And it was amazing at the trash they had put out on the road. And they'll do it. And just one part-time person is not going to make this effective. It's not going to have any teeth in it at all. We don't want to be too aggressive with it, but we want people to know that they can get a citation from a deputy if they're driving down the road throwing trash and limbs all over the place. It's far too much of that goes on. Second question, does this ordinance provide us with the authority to clean up solid waste on private property and attach a lien?
Yes, sir. We have a provision in there, section 52.201A.2.d in the penalties says all costs associated with the removal of accumulated solid waste on a property whose originator cannot be determined, in other words, the person that dumped it, we cannot tell who that was. There's a couch out there, there's no address on the couch, shall be billed to the property owner. Failure to pay the costs for the removal of the solid waste will constitute a lien against the real estate enforceable in the same manner as real estate taxes. So that's our provision. There's general statute that backs that up. 153A-140.2, a county may notify a chronic violator of the county's public nuisance ordinance that if the violator's property is found to be in violation of the ordinance, the county shall, without further notice in the calendar year in which notice is given, so there's some notice requirements there for this to take effect, take action to remedy the violation, and the expense of the action shall become a lien on the property and shall be collected as unpaid taxes.
Commissioner Langley.
Well, I just want to say this real quickly. Now, as far as deputies enforcing the littering, I mean, that's something they can do, period. It's right on the citation, the littering statute, so they can just write a ticket for that anyway.
I got a question.
Yes, Commissioner Booth.
And the thing that I'm worried about in your ordinance, and if it goes as it is tonight, you just lost me, because I do not believe that we want to send somebody in harm's way to go on private property. Now, that's asking a lot. Anytime your tax man go by and people run him off, what you think they're going to do if you come talking about your sofas on the chair? And the other thing is, have you looked at North Carolina laws, there is a general statute for transporting garbage and trash and everything else. And I don't know what the penalty is, but there is a statute for that. And I know that I think we can equal up to what the state says, but we can't surpass what the state says on that statute. And if you look at as many DMV officers that we have had in this state, the last one that I know that wrote a ticket for something blowing off your truck was Wiley Hill. And he been dead all my life.
For a long time.
It's a long time.
So, Commissioner Booth, I'm sorry. So, Commissioner Booth, real quick, General Statute 14-399 and General Statute 20-116G1 both address at a general statute level littering, and they are up to, penalties for littering include up to a $2,000 fine, community work service, and 1 point on a motor driver's license upon conviction. So there are some pretty strong teeth at the state level, which would, my understanding is anyone with statewide jurisdiction or anyone is able to enforce that. Any law enforcement officer can enforce that.
And Commissioner Booth, regarding your other comment regarding going on personal property, again, West and I make up the entire solid waste division of the county, so we share those concerns, but again, the direction that we have received from this board was to do that, and we all know from the majority of the board, yes, sir, and that's what and that is what staff takes direction from, is the majority of the board.
I'm not killing the messenger. I'm just telling you how I feel about going on somebody's front porch talking about a sofa.
The sofa won't be on the front porch when they're talking about. It won't be on their front porch.
It is my belief that if this does move forward, law enforcement is not only an integral piece, but after letters go out, I mean, they would become the main component. I do not carry a weapon. I do not carry anything like that to protect myself, so I would request that support.
Always use wisdom, that's what it takes.
Wisdom over weapon, absolutely, yes, sir.
So, Commissioner Booth, just to speak to that, there would have to be a pretty egregious instance of solid waste before we would move to that extent. And there would certainly be ample opportunity for that to be taken care of before we ever got to that level. I don't see that being out of the gate the start. We would not do that.
And Mr. Manager, I have rode all over this county, and every other highway that I have rode on, there's an egregious case. And I'll be the first. It looks bad, but I just have a problem with going on private property. I mean, I just have a problem with it. I'm just being upfront. I mean, they got to do it. I mean, it's the ordinance. I don't have a problem if it passes.
Well, I've been going to the dump for 40 years since I moved
back from South Carolina. And I think Hood has mentioned the number one problem that we have. If you go down the highway and you see a trailer or a pickup truck, there's not even 1% that's got a tarp on it.
That's right.
And you can buy a nice tarp for $100. So, I mean, to me, the educational part, if they're told when they come up to empty, that we can't empty, or we'll tell you, this is a, we're going to warn you this time, but if you come up the next time, you got to have a tarp on it, or if you're caught, it's $100. I mean, you probably can buy a tarp for 20-some bucks.
Well, thanks, and we've left a little bit of gray area in there, so if somebody's coming up with some loads where they can effectively just put a ratchet strap on top of it, that works. If it's something that needs a tarp, that would be.
And most of the time, if those people will pass you. They're in a hurry to get to the dump and see if they have less on there to throw away.
There's less to unload when you do it.
That's right, when you go fast. John?
I think any ordinance we put together right now is not going to be perfect. And we're going to have to learn a little bit as we go. But I think it's important to start so that we can start that learning curve and adjust as we go.
Agreed.
In addition to the sheriff, would it be nice to have the commissioners
Go with you?
where we have the authority to stop somebody?
I'm a man of prayer, and that's what I'm going to be doing.
It actually, per general statutes, there's some paperwork issues that we need to take care of. So in order for someone to be, we are not sworn law enforcement.
Right.
No power. So there are some notifications, and we have to specifically be approved and given the authority by the commissioners in order to enforce the ordinance. It's an environmental enforcement officer's office. So, there are some legal hurdles that we will need to jump over.
It's easier to just drop a dime on them.
Well, when you do the math, when you close River Road for 100 days, that's almost 10% of our solid waste for the year.
No, well, we're not going to close River Road for 100 days. That's the total contract. So.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry.
But it doesn't matter. The waste doesn't go away.
Yeah.
It will just be transferred somewhere else. So I wish I could find a way to make the waste disappear and go away.
Do we have any other questions?
You need a second?
Oh, you,
I'll second.
all right, we got the motion.
Reading one.
Okay, this is the first reading. All right, we've had plenty of discussion. All those in favor of the first reading, raise your right hand. Those opposed?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Unrelated, well, sort of unrelated. Who decides what is going to be done at the sites from the Republic standpoint? I mean, is that something, the rules that you wrote?
You mean the operations
Yeah.
or the maintenance?
Let me just give you the example. Thursday, Chocowinity's closed. Friday, I went there. Both compactors were down or full. They had one open thing that was already full of MSW, and they were putting it in the second one. And
Call the manager.
yeah,
MSW.
or
The operation of the collection sites is for public services.
Right.
So they handle the day-to-day operation as far as emptying the containers, scheduling the repairs for the compactors, that type of thing. We become involved when exactly what you mentioned happens, when someone goes there or when we go by and we see an issue, and then we contact and then we start on the phone chain calling the managers to see what's going on. But the actual operation and the scheduling of the pickups and all of that is what Republic Services does.
but wouldn't we have an operational thing that says when they're, on the day they're closed, you empty the,
It doesn't say to empty it. We say to, because again, you get into If you have a container that's only a third full, then it doesn't
Well,
make sense for them to go.
I
and empty it.
understand
But
that,
if it's full, if it's topped off, then yes, our expectation of Republic and what we have expressed to them numerous times is that they go in, that they empty it so that it's open
Okay.
and ready to receive. So if that's not the case, then we ask people to contact us and let us know, because we keep a log of things that are going on, and then we contact Republic for it.
And that is one of the challenges of these 3 sites we've just talked about, is it can have an empty container and fill up just like that. So they've already got their truck scheduled for something else, so it has to get in that queue.
Yeah, and that's also why we have those open tops available, because what we've told them is, don't shut a site down, let folks have the opportunity to throw their trash away. Just because the compactor's full, they move to an open top so they can do that, so they have some overflow, so folks don't get turned away. But they also sometimes run into issues with truck drivers. They have only a certain number of hours they can work in a week because of regulations, DMV regulations. So they may end up butting up against that, and they may have to wait to get somebody in to get that truck, to get that load unloaded.
And if MSW is carried out in the open top, it's not a negative to the county very much at all. So whether it's in the compactor or it's in the open top. For Republic, it's to their benefit that it's compacted, because they're getting more tonnage in one load.
On Sunday at Beach Ridge, the compactor was full and the bulk was full. And the second bulk was not quite full, but it was half full with a swimming pool. And I'm not talking about a plastic swimming pool. It actually had wood around the outside. I don't know how they got it off the truck, got it in the bulk container, unless somebody had a front-end loader. But
That was this past Sunday at Beach Ridge?
yeah, that's Sunday.
Regarding it being full on a Sunday, they do not run trucks on Sundays,
They go to church.
so it could have half full at the end of the day.
But it would have been nice if we could have, if we could have sent them to River Road and got them to put it in the compactor,
Yes, sir.
where we could have crushed it.
Yes, sir. Or to the transfer station.
That's my
is where it should
That would have been better.
Depending upon what it looked like and what was included in it, the transfer station may have been the appropriate place for the disposal of that item. So we will have that discussion with the public.
Anything else on the ordinance? All right, you want to go to the mega site update?
So just to say again, that will be brought back in October for the second reading. And regarding any of these issues, please let us know, because we can research it, we can talk with Republic and try to get things straightened out. But regarding the mega site update, we've talked with Garrett and Moore, our engineers that we're working with on these, and they've helped us develop a timeline for execution. Have they got this?
They do.
Okay. We passed out the timeline earlier. We're estimating about 4 months for property acquisition. We're still working on that. Hopefully have that completed by the end of December. Garrett Moore has returned the following figures for engineering and design, 6 months, permitting about 5 months, procurement, which is the bidding process, 3 months, and construction about 9 months. That puts us on track for currently November 2025. Our 10-year initial period with Republic ends December 31st of 2025. So that gives us a month leeway in that aspect. And of course, all of these are estimated.
Did he give us an estimate on the price?
That will depend a lot on the sites, so we do not have that number yet.
Any questions on the mega site? This is good. This is good. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. The next item for discussion is from our finance officer, Anita.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the item that I have for you this evening is really a formality related to our ARP funds. So you may recall back in 2021, the county received $9.1 million from the federal government through the American Rescue Plan. And with that final rule for those grant funds, any local government that received less than $10 million was allowed to automatically claim a revenue replacement category for those funds. And by doing that, that allowed us to not have to do some of the reporting and compliance tasks that would come along with taking a different category for those expenditures. So we did choose to do that. And it also allowed us to buy ourselves more time with spending the money because they had certain deadlines in place when you had to have the money committed and spent by those 2024 and 2026 dates. We thought we were going to get out of some work with some policy work that had to be adopted related to the ARP funds, but as it turns out, even though we chose that revenue replacement category, we're still required to adopt 4 policies related to purchasing and spending ARP funds, and they are a record retention policy, which you'll find on page 217. There's an allowable cost principle policy, which is on page 220. An allowable use policy, which starts on page 233, and a non-discriminatory policy on page 237. And so I wish I could take credit for doing all this work and writing all these policies. The fact is that these are basically boilerplate policies written mainly by the UNC School of Government, and they highly recommend that we plagiarize as much as we can and just pretty much insert our county's name in there. So I'll try to entertain any questions you might have, but my recommendation is that we need to, in order to be in compliance with our grant funds, to adopt these 4 policies.
Any questions of Anita?
I'll just make one comment, Anita. As long as you acknowledge that it came from them, it's not plagiarism.
Okay, I entertain a motion to approve. Can we do all this in one motion? Okay. To approve the 4 separate policies as it relates to the ARPA money.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the approval of all 4 policies, raise your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen.
I have a question, follow-up in addition to this.
Yes.
Okay, can you give us a budget at the next meeting of how much of that money is spent, how much is obligated, and how much remains to be spent?
Yes, sir, I can actually tell you off the top of my head, I'm sure we have $1.69 million left that's unobligated. We do have several water projects that were tabled, but I do have a running spreadsheet of those funds, and I can actually email that out in the morning and you'll have it.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Anything else before we leave and go to the next item? Okay, we're actually down to the break, but we're running a little ahead of schedule. Brian, you want to go ahead and do the Aurora Clinic property update?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just to give you a quick update, we have acquired the property. We've gotten the keys from the hospital system. Our maintenance folks have been down there and done some work and getting the place cleaned up. They were down making sure the roof was clear and the gutters were clear before the tropical storm came through. I guess just in general, what we have been operating on the principle that we heard from this board in that you wanted to try to provide some level of medical care service down there, usually through the health department or with other partners we may have in the county. We also talked about trying to make kind of a one-stop shop for folks in that area because it is essentially the furthest point from our main operations. So would we have a DSS presence down there maybe once a week? Would we have Veteran Services Officer down there maybe once a week? Would we have an ability to have a collections point down there for taxes or water bills once or twice a week, something like that? Those are kind of the premises that we've been working on, kind of a satellite one-stop facility. But I guess before we get any further into that, I just want to make sure the board is good with that before we continue to plow forward. I did have a request by the mayor of Aurora to ask the board, or he asked me, and I said, well, I couldn't tell you that question. I'd have to ask the board if you would consider selling that piece of property. He said that he had someone who may be interested in it. And so, I don't want to go down that path without, and then the board say, no, we want to do something different. So I'm just asking for your direction. Do you want us to continue on that? Do I need to tell the mayor no, that the board's not interested in selling that piece of property? Just let me know what you want to do.
Commissioner Richards.
Well, I wouldn't have a problem with doing some kind of a minimal lease if he has a doctor that wants to go in there. Somebody to provide a medical service in there, because that's the whole purpose of it. We probably should approach some other medical providers like Agape and see if they have an interest in it in any way, because they're pretty flush with money, and that's their clientele.
Well, we're having discussions with other providers, other partners across the state, across the county, and even folks outside the county like ECU with the dental piece, and different opportunities to be able to provide some services down there.
Well, I don't have a problem myself as long as we are focused on something medical to go into the building.
I'll ditto to that, because that was our whole purpose for wanting the building back, was to make sure that we could have services available to the people down in the area. So, and to sell it to someone in the private community, I would greatly oppose that.
So just from my perspective, I heard one say, I might entertain a lease. I heard one say, absolutely not. If the board as a whole could give me direction on that.
Well, I think Commissioner Richardson pretty made it clear that it would be for health reasons, health care, some form of health care.
So
we can vote on it. I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, so I understand what he was saying. Do you want that to be a private provider, or do you want us to try to make sure, because it's going to be tough for a private provider?
I don't care who it is, as long as the services can be provided. It's more or less a matter of picking whatever opportunity you've got in front of you at the moment. You don't know what that will be. I also don't have a problem if you want to set aside one room that could be used, for instance, if the health department wanted to go down one day a week in that one room, part of the building, or you wanted the water department to go down one day a week, or collect taxes or money or whatever. I don't have a problem with all of the above.
We actually have, is it 3 mobile units now that's available?
There are multiple mobile units that can do that, and part of what we talked about was at least putting in some hookups for that, so they could have that you could pull a mobile unit down there for the day, hook it up, have a 50-amp service where they could hook in, obviously not water sewer, because they could go in the building and use that, but have hookups to where they could do that. So if they brought the bus down, maybe a dental bus or something. But I would see some conflicts between the health department or Agape and a private provider if you were trying to lease that. There'd be some conflicts there. So I'm just looking for some clear direction on that.
I move that we allow the manager to proceed with recruiting whatever health services that he can and bring it back to us, because I don't think it's a matter of saying we want X, Y, or Z, because you're not going to get that. It's a matter of whatever you can find.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Do you have anything else on that, Brian?
That's right on, thank you.
Okay, the next item is going to take longer than 15 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and take a break, and then we'll be right back in 15 minutes. And we're back. We're down to the next item for discussion, an update from the jail committee. Commissioner Rebholz.
Okay.
You've got in front of you a summary of what we've done, what's been taking place so far. At the last meeting, we asked people to try to make a decision on what the best option was that they felt of the 5, or actually 6 options that we had been looking at. The back sheet gives you those 6 options, from doing nothing through a new jail facility and a new sheriff's office adjacent to it. So there was, and I'll just summarize this, I would say that there was consensus in the jail committee that we ought to do something, that we needed to address several issues, including our inability to categorize the inmates in the fashion that they needed to be. We have a capacity issue at times, and I'll put Major Hewitt on the spot because he indicated that if they allowed the probation officers to bring everybody they wanted to bring to the weekends, they'd be at 120 people, which would put us significantly over the allotted amount. And then to increase security for the staff. There was no consensus, however, in what to do about those issues. And I'll just break it down for you. From the committee, there was 0 votes to do nothing, 0 votes to renovate the first floor existing basement alone, which would include using the clerk of the court and recorder of deed storage. This was on the second vote, by the way. 1 vote to add a single-story addition of 6,200 square feet with a sally port out the backside of the existing courthouse. There were 4 votes to add a 2-story addition, that same configuration, out the back of the courthouse. And then there was 1 vote for a new jail sheriff 911 center. That last option was heavily dependent upon who was going to pay for it. And the point was made throughout this whole debate and discussion that a number of other counties throughout the state have received funds to build a new jails and new sheriff's office. We have not been successful in getting that. We asked for it the last time, this last budget cycle. We don't know if there's anything going to be in this budget cycle right now. There was some indication that there may be funds for a new sheriff's office, but not for a new jail. So the third option, that third thing that we talked about, in which there was a lot of consensus around, was for us to write letters to our state representatives outlining the problems that we're facing and what the issues are in some detail, and to ask for their support in getting us the funds to build whatever of the options that we could do. So it is our recommendation that we proceed, or the committee's recommendation is that we proceed with that path, which is to lobby our representatives to get our share of the pie to improve the situations that we have here. Okay. So I would like to make a motion that we proceed to craft letters to our state representatives asking for their support and the funds necessary to provide us with the solutions that we need to serve the county.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. Thank you.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes.
Okay. I'll just say it. I don't like the process that we're using to resolve some of these problems, because it's much like touchy-feely. I just feel like we need to do this, and I just feel like we need to do that. And I'm talking about commissioners. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Part of that is that the jail is an awful place, that it's some kind of a dungeon and that sort of thing. The truth of the matter is the jail is in compliance with all of the state laws, and the jail is inspected by the grand jury once a year and twice a year by the state, and I think once a year ever so often by the health department. So it's not in bad shape. Actually, it's in good shape. The question is not the condition of the present jail that we have, but the needs of the county. What do you want to do, or what are we trying to do to forward the quality of life in Beaufort County? And the thing that we're eat up with, and I don't think we'd have a problem disagreeing with this, is drugs. Okay, you say, we want to do something about the drug problem in Beaufort County. You definitely need a bigger jail if you're going to do that. Admittedly, there's a group out there that seems to think that as long as we're nice to these people and we help them and give them more drugs and more money and more assistance and let them keep taking drugs, that everything's going to be okay. That's not true. So there's a magic question out there that this board has never asked itself, nor the individual members of this board, nor the county. The magic question is, what are we trying to do? Once you answer that question, then you pretty much know what to do. We have not defined segregation within the jail. I'm not talking about racial segregation. I'm talking about segregation of criminal types. You know, how much more segregation do we want or need if that's an issue? To me, that's not much of an issue, but if that's an issue, that's part of it. If we're going to become more aggressive about drugs in Beaufort County and try to put an end to it, a stop to it, you need more space in the jail. So how aggressive are you going to become? How much more space do you need in the jail? Nobody has ever defined any of this. It's just we think we need, because that's the way we feel. That is not the way businesses are run, and it should not be the way governments are run. So we go lobby the state, do all that sort of thing. We have two other issues that are involved in this, and she's going to come up in a minute. One of them is the Register of Deeds, her space, and the other one is the sheriff's building and the sheriff's space. They're talking about building a building out back to house the sheriff's department. Nobody has ever said how many square feet you need to do that. Oh, we just think this is the right amount of square feet. Well, what are you going to do with that when you get it? Who's going to go in there? Oh, let's move the magistrates over there. Why? The magistrates are already in a safe place, and it works real well, and they have adequate space. So why do we want to do that? We have a building that's sitting on Main Street that everybody in town can see, that's got 3 stories in it of high ceilings. If we're going to do something, we should use what we already have. Consider remodeling that building for the sheriff and outfit it to whatever he thinks his needs are. The other thing is, you've got a courthouse sitting over here. You can get 18 additional cells by just building out the basement at a cost of about $4.5 million. You can remodel the building for the sheriff and make it a fine Cadillac-type building, and you can outfit and get 18 more cells in the basement of the jail for probably $10 million or less. You got 5.6 now. Why do we want to go out and build buildings and abandon buildings that the taxpayers have already paid for? Doesn't make a lick of sense. We have got to stop making subjective judgments and make objective judgments. And I'll give you 2 great examples. The school buildings in Beaufort County are half full. Why? I was there because some of the people felt like we needed to do this, and some of the people felt like we needed to do that. So we have wound up with extremely high-cost school buildings. We're still paying for those bonds, and they're only half full. The reason was because nobody was objective. Everybody did what they felt like doing. That doesn't work. The taxpayers should be irate. The other big disaster that we have in Beaufort County is $195 million for a bridge that goes nowhere. That's east of Washington, the Highway 17 bypass. West of Washington, excuse me. Thank you. West of Washington. That became a big political issue. And the reason was because some of the people on the board just felt like we needed to do this. And some of the people on the board just felt like we needed to do that. Nobody listened to a bridge across the Pamlico would link the southern part of the county to the northern part of the county, and the southern part of the county is trying to break away anyway. It would have done wonders for Aurora, which everybody sits in here and whines and mopes. We've got to do something for Aurora. It would have helped the education system down there because we got a school down there that everybody talks to me about needs to be closed because there's nobody in it. We have been making, since I've been on this board 27 years, this board, among these people and some other people who are actually dead today, have made decisions that are bad decisions because they did what their gut told them to do rather than what they objectively should have done to help the people of Beaufort County. So I'm going to fight hard not to roll into another disaster. We need to be giving people their tax money back. If we do these two things, we can lower taxes. We build out the footprint of the jail, and we remodel the sheriff's building for the sheriff. We don't need to build a building out back so that we've got one on Main Street with 3 stories in it that can rot down.
Main Street.
Main Street, not Main Street.
Second.
No,
Market.
Market, excuse me. Market. So we need to think hard about why we're doing what we're doing. And it's not hard to make a decision when you get to that point. When you get to these emotional decisions, that's when we have the big fights and the big arguments, and everybody gets mad and upset and goes out and tries to convince the taxpayer of something that is simply not true.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for spending what money we get from the, excuse me, I thought I clicked it. I am going to vote for what we decided early on in these discussions, using some of this money coming down from the COVID money. This is before the Build Back Better, which is an odd thing to call what's happening to our economy. But anyway, I'm going to spend that much and no more for a jail, and that is going to be situated in the bottom of the basement, providing we find a way to provide what needs to be provided for the Register of Deeds.
Yes, Commissioner Booth.
First, I want to thank the committee for doing the job that you've had feelings in. I really want to thank you for that. And then I want to agree with Mr. Richardson. Our jail be inspected every year, sometimes twice a year, and it passes. But then I want to ask Mr. Richardson, if you had to be at that same jail today, would it pass? You got your employees sitting there all day long and no windows they can look out. Gunsmoke was better than that. At least they had a little peephole that they could look out the back. Because it passes today, don't mean it is what we need. I also agree with Mr. Richards, we spent $10 million patching. You want to spend another $10 million to patch again. The first time when we started talking about building a jail, it was only $21 million. We done spent 20 patching. And if you listen to him, we're going to spend another 20 patching. It's time to stop patching and do something constructive. Yes, some of those guys are dead that voted for that jail over there, but they built the best they had when they was doing it. And we're living them same days. Not me. I think the employees is in jail just like the inmates. I mean, I was reading an article today. I forgot what year it was, that a woman couldn't be a jailer. Men. It was rare that a woman went to jail, but they did. Men sitting there looking at them. Can you imagine what happened? Can you imagine what happened right here in Beaufort County when men watching women in jail? Can you imagine? Those are the facts.
Commissioner Langley. Well, I've never made any bones about it. You know, I'm all for a brand-new facility. And my reasons are for classification, officer safety, and overall just being progressive in everything that we do. For far too long, we keep doing the same things over and over again. And it is time for us to be more progressive in everything that we do. Women in our detention facility, they're in a bad situation as far as I'm concerned, because the girl who shoplifted a bag of pork chops is in a cell block with a girl who just slit someone's throat. That is not good business. I don't care how you look at that. And then even, I know the sheriff's office does the best that they can to keep violent and non-violent offenders separated. But sometimes numbers won't allow them to do what needs to be done. People with mental health issues, they don't need to be in the general population. So my whole thought process has been that we need a facility where you can get the proper classification, the proper segregation, as well as officer safety. That's what's more important to me. And I don't want it so that 20 years from now, we're still having this very same conversation. And it's time for us to move forward. Thank you.
Other commissioners? Well, we took action to continue to try to lobby our state legislators. And I think we have even considered going to our congressmen and our senators. One of the things that was never addressed in the committee, and I want to make sure the public understands it, these plans that we had for the basement never got sent to the state. They never signed off on them. So we don't know whether they would allow us to enlarge the footprint by increasing the license from 85, and I've heard 18, and I've heard as high as 20. One of my biggest concerns that I've had over the last 8 years is every meeting that I go to, whether it's state or whether it's a federal meeting, we talk about the population in the jail. And that, the number is all over the board. You can just pick a number. But I think the lowest number I've heard is 40%. And I've heard higher numbers as it relates to mental issues. And in that you can throw in people that are addicted that, need additional help, and the jail is not the place to do that. If you listen to some of the things that are going on, I think that at the state level, they're going to be looking for an answer as it relates to some kind of a regional approach, not county by county, but a regional approach to try to tackle the people that are in Beaufort County's jail and all the other 99 jails in addition in North Carolina to some kind of a regional facility. And, that's being discussed by people like Trillium. It's being discussed by some of the healthcare providers. So, to me, it's a moving target right now. I think that we've got plenty of space if we can just put the people in there that are the real criminals and the people that Commissioner Richardson is trying to say we need to pull them off the street and put them someplace. But we have a large population, and I think society, and I think North Carolina is in that discussion. How's the best way to do it? And I think that it's going to have to be a regional approach because we got small counties all around us. Pitt's a big one or bigger, but we have a lot of other small counties that are having the same problem, and they have to send them somewhere. The thing that I would like to make sure the commissioners continue to do is is to have the jail committee and that it meet from time to time as needed, because we need to continue to have the discussion. If for some chance the state comes in and says, you know, we've got $25 million that we're going to give to Beaufort County, you know, those people right there and this group up here and the other stakeholders, we got to figure out, you know, the plan, the location. And that's one of the things that in our discussion of the jail committee, we're still divided on whether you can do it behind the courthouse or whether you got to go to another location. So we still have work to do. And I think we've got people on the committee, and I think we've got people within the sheriff's office and the detention center that, you know, needs to meet with us from time to time, not on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis, but at least continue to have that dialogue. I think if we're going to lobby our state legislatures, we need to have a plan that we all agree of where we want to go. You know, somebody's going to have to do something at some point in time, and it's not, you know, I disagree with the feel-good thing. I think we've had some good discussion, and it's easy just to say that it's a feel-good approach. But I take my job very serious as a commissioner. I have a fiduciary responsibility to plan and make decisions long-term, not just short-term decisions that affects what's going to happen in the next, you know, 12 months on a campaign. You know, where do you stand? I mean, that's what we are elected for, is to make those kind of decisions long-term with the best information we've got. And we've got some good information, but I don't think that we just need to sit back and totally dissolve and not continue to have the discussion. And I'm saying that because we got Sheriff Hammonds in here and a lot of his support, that we got to have the dialogue. I mean, I'm a commissioner, and I come to this meeting once a month. I'm not in it on a daily basis. I don't know what goes on a daily basis, what the problems are or the opportunities. I'm just concerned about overall where we're headed as it relates to people with disorders that don't need to be in the county jail. I mean, that's an issue that we all face, and we're affected by it every day. NC State's had another person to commit suicide. Last year they had 14. I mean, these are issues that we've got to settle, and you can't settle them in a jail by just saying, we're not going to do anything. So, all right. We're down to Commissioner Richardson. Your first one is the Register of Deeds report.
Yes, if she would come up and give her report.
Really wasn't planning on giving a report, but I will be more than happy to do so. I feel like I'm in the middle of a tug of war right now. Commissioner Richardson, what would you like to hear? I do, since taking office January 3rd, I've had about 7,000 folks come through the Register of Deeds for recordings, for vitals, and for copies. Now, that doesn't include the folks that come in that do research and so forth. Right now, our limitations are, we do not have the room to expand our services. I added card readers on our counters, 3 of them, and I didn't have enough USB ports, so I had to run out to Office Depot for hubs. And but right now, I mean, we're nothing but wires, and we can't add anymore. And I would like to enhance our services and expand. So far as technology goes, we're limited. So, you know, with the space at the counters and so forth. My biggest thing is safekeeping the records. We're the gatekeeper. And right now, I have records that have not been digitized from 1696 to 1967. I've gotten 3 three contracts in to review, and the most expensive is $250,000 to index and get the rest of our records digitized. Now, you talk about space in our office. We are very limited. The staff is very tight. It's unnerving sometimes. We make it work. I broke my toe going in my closet, which my office is kind of like a closet, but we work with what we have. And we provide excellent service to those that come in. That's my biggest thing, providing the best service possible. Providing the best service possible. So I would like to expand our services, including statewide vitals, which would bring a good revenue into our county. So far as Christina has come in my office twice, looked around, we've got load-bearing walls, we've got this, we've got that, we're limited. Can we move records downstairs? Not if my sheriff wants to take the downstairs. What is the humidity levels? That's something else to look at. But I look at the records that have been down there for how many years? All of our map cabinets are down there, A through J. There's old books down there. I even have a gravestone in the basement. I've hauled off about 7 or 8 loads of trash from the basement, and I'm sharing storage space with my sheriff back here to put their mattresses. There's things that we could do, don't know what can be done, but I am always willing to work with each and every one of you. If you ever have any questions, would like to come in, I will give you a tour from A to Z, and you can see what we have and what we're dealing with. But I think we're doing a great job at the Register of Deeds with what we have and what we have to work with. So far as technology, I've expanded to a great level, I think, and we're just providing a good service. So, you tell me what you would like. I'm happy to work with you. I'm happy to work with our sheriff. I'm a team player, and I want to do what's best for the citizens in this county.
What year was it?
1696.
1696.
So, and I will tell you, every day I have to sweep up what? My books are decaying, those old books. I am making a little money off of them because when people call and those deeds aren't online and they want me to make a copy, scan it and email them to it, it's not free. You know, before we didn't offer that service, but now, you know, we do at times when it's really needed, and we do charge a small fee for that. But I would like to see all those records online for the public, and that way we wouldn't have to worry about that. That may set up some free room for me.
Commissioner Walker?
When
Yes,
records
sir.
are digitized, where do the originals go?
The originals are going to stay with us. And when they're digitized, that process, those originals will never leave the Register of Deeds office. They will be done, that project will be done in the Register of Deeds office on a weekend when we're not there.
So
But the
we
records-
keep hard copies forever.
Well, Jennifer quit printing hard copies in December because we have no more room for books. We just have like 3 slots for indexes, but that's it. There's no more room for books. So everything that's going online now, that's being recorded, e-recorded, over the counter, it's all going online, which I like because it's accessible. And people can call me and say, well, I don't know how to look that up. Well, guess what? I can walk them through it. That's just like people ordering their vitals online now. That's a great service. It's a 24/7 service, and people are loving it.
Carolyn, how many times during the week do you have to go downstairs into the basement?
We go down once a week to put the maps in the plat cabinets. That's a process. I try not to go down there very much unless I have to. Went down there today to pull a file cabinet for one of the employees. But typically, the only time that we go down there is to put maps in the file cabinet, in the plat cabinets.
Or is somebody request?
Now, we do have people that go down there to look at those map index books and those maps at times. And I can tell you, I'm very leery about people going down those steps. But we keep a chain up there. And when we have little children come in, I shut the door to the vault because some kids just get a little crazy. So I'm trying to make a little kid corner, but I don't have the space to do that. We have people that go down there occasionally that are looking at old maps and so forth. I think Hood's been down, or Commissioner Richardson's been down there a few times.
I went, last time I was down there was with Billy Bayo. That's where the drainage, all the drainage maps are.
Well, there's a lot of stuff down there that was left from many people from the agencies that were down there. I had State Archives come in and review all the records for the Register of Deeds to let me know what I had to keep and what I could let go. We housed the commissioner's minutes, your minute books. They're down there. There's, sir? Oh, okay. But, so far as going, it's not user-friendly. Downstairs, it's not user-friendly for us because of the humidity levels, but I don't think they're that bad. But, it's like the new things that are being recorded, that were printed, that's on regular paper, and that holds up fairly well. And even the books that are down there, I've reviewed them, I've opened up those books, and they look okay. But what I've got upstairs are books that need to be digitized. And if they don't take my basement, I would entertain moving some of those books downstairs. Not the old ones, but the newer ones. So.
Other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead. The old books, you have in your budget money to redo so many of those books each year?
No, sir, we do not.
You
We
do
have
have
some restoration funds, yes, but there are other things that we have to use that money for too. It's going to cost up to $250,000 to digitize and index all the books that aren't digitized at this time.
Well, I'm talking about the preservation of the old books.
Mm-hmm.
You're not advocating throwing the old books away, or
No,
allowing them
never.
to continue to deteriorate.
Never. Those books will always stay up there, and yes, we can preserve those.
Well, the previous Register of Deeds had a program of redoing so many of those every year. Are
Yeah.
you doing
I
that?
think what they were working on were the old births and marriages. There has not been much so far as done with the real estate books, which should be. And it's a very expensive ordeal, especially when you go to the older books. Whenever I make a copy of those, because the background is black, so you have to do a positive, negative, reverse. So you can even make it legible if you're going to scan or email or mail or for those that are coming in to get copies of those deeds.
Well, we need to take a look in your budget, in my opinion, when it comes up to preservation of those old books, whether they're digitized or not. They need to be preserved for
Yes,
the
sir. I agree.
benefit of the public, because there are a lot of things that you can get off of an original copy or an original that you can't get off of an electron. So, those electrons are convenient. And then I have another problem. I did not realize that we had stopped filing hard copies of books. This is a serious problem because that electron is not going to be there forever. What people do not realize is that anything that's put on an electronically preserved or saved is not permanent. I don't care if they put it in the cloud. I don't care if they tell you it's backed up 15 places. You can have one magnetic storm that will be a total disaster to everybody on Earth. We need to take a look at what we need to do to help you preserve hard copies of deeds. People that are getting deeds for property, they may have that original deed at home, and you made a copy of it and recorded it, but North Carolina law talks about going to the courthouse as being the place to get a lot of this kinds of information. And if it's not there in a physical form, I think we have a serious problem.
Well, I do know that in other Register of Deeds office that some of them have gone almost totally digitized. Now, the problem with that you're talking about, I have nowhere to put them. I have nowhere to put books.
Well, this is why you're here, because I wanted to hear from you about what your needs are. And to me, I'm totally against people recording their deeds online, and that's where you want to go to find it when you have to go to court and have a lawsuit or something, and you've had a magnetic storm or somebody's punched the wrong computer button somewhere, and all the records are gone. I know the stories about it's backed up and backed up and backed
Yeah,
up.
well,
But I use
e-recordings-
computers too, so I know how reliable they are.
E-recordings come in electronically, and they are recorded electronically, and it's only an electronic record. You're talking about, I don't know if you're talking about printing those out also, but, as I stated, I am willing to come to the table and sit and talk to you about anything that you need to talk about and how you would like to proceed in preserving the records here in Beaufort County. I feel it's a very important role because people need these records on a regular basis. I wish I had brought the numbers with me of just this year of the birth certificates. The marriage, we did 5 marriage licenses on Friday after 3:30. But the vitals, it's unbelievable. And I've got numbers of every document, how many have been recorded, whether it's deeds of trust, foreclosures. I've got record of all that. If anybody wants to see that, I developed a reporting program. And I've got it in a graph. All I have to do is send you one page, and it's got it all right there. I don't have to send you
Well,
anything
I think
voluminous.
when we do the budget this fall, we need to take a look at what we need to do to preserve the records in their physical form. In addition to the electronic form, I use the electronic forms. They are very useful. But at the end of the day, I guess I'm old-fashioned. I want to see something in a hard copy instead of something on an electron because it can be manipulated when it's on an electron. And that's just, we don't need to do that. So we need to take up with the Register of Deeds when we start this budget, what we can do to give what we need to do to have physical copies of all of this stuff and to provide her with the space that she needs to actually serve the public. Because this convenient stuff with computers is all fine stuff. But I tell you what, I've dealt with it for many years and it's not reliable.
Well, like I said, I'm happy to come to the table anytime. Anybody wants to come by for a tour, sit down, have a discussion, I'm available. So contact me anytime. Thank you.
I got one last question.
Yes, sir.
Is there a name on that tombstone?
Alligood.
Oh, it is?
Yes, Alligood.
Well, it would be a Willard or an Alligood.
And, I posted a picture of it and everything, and no one's claimed it yet, so. Yeah. You know how many Alligoods are in Beaufort County, right?
Well, but this one dates back to 1649.
It's old.
That's right, we do have
Hey,
an Alligood.
Halloween is coming up, but I'd hate to use it like that.
Thank you very much, Carolyn.
Thank you.
All right, we're down to item number 2 under Commissioner Richardson's video presentations.
I got a lot of calls, and so did other commissioners. When the last commissioner meeting was posted for the public, my telephone started ringing, and people were very irate. They couldn't see it. They didn't, it was jumbled. It wasn't good. I never really got a good explanation of exactly how they defined it, other than they were hollering that they couldn't see it, and it wasn't good. Now, I checked this the other night myself online on cable TV, didn't see any problem with the presentation. It was clear, had good audio and all of that. So do you know anything?
I do. Excuse me, I do. We got a phone call from, I got a phone call from somebody asking about it, and we checked it and reset the server, and there was a skip or a delay, something happening. But as soon as someone said something to us about it, we don't watch it all the time just to see. Brandon reset it. And it took care of the problem. So I think he's set up a schedule now where he resets that. He's going to reset that server like every couple of weeks, every once a week or something like that, so that doesn't happen. But we don't know about it until somebody says something. Somebody called my office and said there's a problem with it. We said okay, and we had it fixed that afternoon. So.
Yeah, okay. The next item is the jail footprint status discussion. I think we've already discussed that, so I'm going to move on. Request for update on cable TV. Where are we in hassling these sorry service that the people in Beaufort County are getting on cable TV?
I'm sorry to tell you that we've not had any response at all. We've sent the additional letter, I think that's the 3rd one, and we've not had any response. I can't find an email address anywhere for somebody at the Attorney General's office. There is an online complaint form, but that's not what we're looking for. So we sent them hard copies, and we've said in the letters we've got no response. And unless somebody has the inside contact, we'll continue to.
Well, I would ask the public that if you know of a way to get to this problem, if you know who's in charge, who has authority, who we can complain to, who we should complain to, call my office. Because this is not acceptable. And just because, as some people say, cable TV is dying, doesn't mean that you don't keep your obligation up, because you have the business and you're certainly collecting plenty of money from me, if not from anybody else, for a sorry service. Anybody want to weigh in on that?
I'll weigh in there. I have from time to time problems with it all digitizing, and I've got a book, I've got all my numbers, my account numbers and the telephone numbers and everything that I go through. There's a regimen of what you have to go through to call them. But I'm going to say that they fix, when I have a problem, they fix it. And it's pain that you have to go through this, but if you keep your notes about you, and it just seems like it every Sunday night is when it happens that I get these digital streaks happening. But when they send some sort of pulse through the system. You start it, you bring it back, and I must say that I've had a lot of success, and they've been extremely nice about fixing it. Now, I know cable TV is cable TV, but I must say Optimum does better than the others that have been before them. So that's just my experience.
Hood, I think you mentioned it, is they can send a signal to your box, and I call it rebooting. I don't know whether that's a technical name or not, but they send a signal, and it's like cranking you up for the first time. It's sort of like unplugging the power and plugging it back in.
It's an electronic pulse.
Yeah, and most of the time that'll solve it.
Yeah.
Or should solve part of it, so.
Well, you're talking about the digital feed. I think Hood's talking about the cable.
Well, even the cable box,
No, I have cable, and like I said, it usually happens on a Sunday when you're trying, I'm going to be watching NFL, and it gets very frustrating, but, I've got my little book, I can pull it out, call the number, and go through, the routine. They send that pulse after I've started and stopped it. And, once you're comfortable with the procedures, it seems to work. So that's just my...
But do you have a modem?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Hood has a modem.
Yeah, I got a modem.
Yeah. That's all you got to do then, Hood.
Yeah. Well, I need that number.
Well,
it's your regular...
I think it's available online, Optimum.
Yeah.
To keep you good notes and have all of your, take a picture of the modem's serial number and everything, because they'll tell you all that. And when you can just blurt it out, it really helps.
Okay, thanks for the advice.
Let me back up to the video presentation of the meetings. When I saw it on here, Hood, during the weekend, I went to the county's website and clicked on it, and it played fine from the county's website.
So there's a difference there. There's the streaming that goes on that we're playing using a server that broadcasts that on the cable channel, and then there are the two online services that we use, Vimeo and YouTube, and they're just sitting out there. So when you click, you can go to Vimeo or YouTube, you can go back and you can look at all the old meetings, and that's at the highest quality there is. It's what they're able to receive, what we send them, which is high quality. The challenge that we have with the cable is that the cable that we have access to, the government access channel that they give us, that Optimum gives the county to use, we don't pay a dime for it, is still at the analog level. It's not at the digital level. And of course, they're upgrading their service. What we've been told by them is they're upgrading their service, but obviously anything they're giving away for free, they're not going to upgrade that until they upgrade everything else. So we can have a high resolution video and send it to them, send it to that server, but then it dumbs it down because that's all they can broadcast is off the analog. So it dumbs it down a little bit. So it's not as clear, not as crisp, but if you go and look at it on Vimeo or YouTube, it is as crisp as it can be because it's at the highest resolution.
And when you go to the county and then go to watch it, it also tells you when it's on River Street and the channel here in Washington.
And I'm not sure, I don't have River Street, so I don't know what they broadcast at, but, everything they have is on fiber, so I'm sure they're broadcasting at the highest level.
Yes.
But what we have access to is at an analog level.
All right, we're down to Commissioner Dethridge. Institutional corruption.
It is a large and very expansive topic, one I have a full desire to discuss, but maybe not so much tonight. I'm going to pull it and then come back at another time and maybe in a different manifestation.
All right. Any commissioner want to use their 2 minutes?
I don't.
Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.